Is Mike Tomlin and George Pickens the reason why Justin Fields doesn't want to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers? You really have to ask yourself this question. I've read multiple articles that have said that Mike Tomlin was told by multiple coaches that they wanted Russell Wilson benched in order to start Justin Fields. That every single coach in the building wanted Justin Fields to start over Russell Wilson at a certain point when he was struggling, and Mike Tomlin said no. And if I quote Mike Tomlin said he went Lone Ranger on this decision. So if you're Justin Fields and you're sitting back and you're thinking, now let's talk about Justin Fields' personality. He doesn't really say much. He never complains. You don't hear him ever complain about anything. He barely talks to the media. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but he just does his post-game interview and he leaves. Never mind complaining or saying anything derogatory about his teammates, coaches, or the city, unlike a lot of players in the Steelers locker room, specifically one who I'm referring to. So Justin Fields is a professional. He's quiet. And you know what they say about those quiet guys? You never know what they're thinking. And Justin Fields might just sit back and think to himself at this point, you know what? He knows that every coach in the building wanted him to start over Russell Wilson, and he's a competitive athlete. You don't think that he says to himself, you know what, F him. He didn't want me then. Well, I don't want to deal with him now when he needs me, and I should have been starting last year. At the end of the day, he's a human. But we're not just talking about regular humans. We're talking about ultra competitive human beings who are motivated by strange things sometimes. You know, you see a guy in the draft and he falls to the number, 15th overall pick in the first round instead of number 1, and he's still talking about it 20 years later. You don't know what's going through Justin Fields' mind. So he might just move in silence. You might just see his actions by him saying, you know what, I'm going to sign with the Jets. And everybody's going to say he got more money from the Jets, so he left. That might factor into it somewhat. But what if the real reason is Mike Tomlin? What if the real reason he decided to sign with the Jets is because Aaron Glenn, the new head coach of the New York Jets, wanted him to be the starter, embraced him with open arms. And Justin Fields said, you know what? That's the guy I'm going to go with. And this would be an error on Tomlin's part. Because when you have every single coach in the building saying that Justin Fields should start over Russell Wilson, and you just throw everybody's opinion in the garbage and lose 5 games in a row at the end of the season, you are to blame. So not only did you cost the Steelers their season, the quarterback that should have been playing in his mind says, go to hell, I'm going somewhere else. And then leave it to the biggest idiot in the entire locker room who should have been cut years ago, George Pickens, to come out and say, oh, Aaron Rodgers would be my dream teammate. Not exactly a vote of confidence for Justin Fields. So if I'm Justin Fields, I might be thinking to myself, I'm not appreciated here. I got screwed last year. I should have been the starter. And after Russell Wilson started to struggle and the Steelers lost multiple games in a row to the end of the season, Mike Tomlin still didn't want me as his quarterback. So why would I want to play for him now? Why would I want to play for a man and a coach that makes such poor decisions? Let's not forget, Justin Fields was 4-2 before he was replaced by Russell Wilson. 4-2, playing excellent football, running the ball all over the place, throwing it all over the place. He had great numbers. But no, Tomlin's just so much smarter than everybody else. You brought in Arthur Smith to be the offensive coordinator, and he's made it loud and clear that he wanted Justin Fields to be his starter. And Tomlin just overran him. Nope, don't want him. I want Russell Wilson. I mean, maybe Tomlin's wife is friends with Ciara. I don't know, because the decision doesn't make sense. And it makes even less sense when you think about it from this perspective. When Russell Wilson was struggling and could not do anything whatsoever in a game, couldn't even get a first down to the third quarter, he still was not replaced by Justin Fields. He still didn't enter the game. So when Justin Fields, let's just say Justin Fields walks out the door, signs with the Jets, don't just think it was the money. Don't just blame, because I already know what I'm going to hear. Art Rudy's cheap. The Steelers are cheap. The Steelers are stuck in 1985. They're cheap. That's all you're going to hear. Especially the national media, woke ESPN and racist Ryan Clark. They're never going to tell the truth. They're never going to say, well, Justin Fields signing with the New York Jets is on Mike Tomlin because of the way he was treated and overlooked. They'll never report that. They'll never say that. But as a human being, we're never going to know because Justin Fields is never going to tell us. But let's think about it from an ultra competitor's point of view. I think Justin Fields walks out the door and says goodbye to Mike Tomlin, George Pickens, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, if that happens, the only way to salvage a season, which I thought we should have went in this direction anyway, whether we signed Justin Fields or not, and the only way to salvage the Steelers' 2025 season, obviously Sam Darnold is not coming to the Steelers. I would love for him to be a Steeler, but I don't think it's going to happen. So Matthew Stafford is available. Cooper Kupp is available, one of his main weapons. You could bring in Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is not a number one receiver. He's a 2, a 3, a 4, whatever you want to put him at. It doesn't matter. He still brings excellent production along with your number one receiver who's still undecided. Who that is still undecided at this point. You bring those two guys in. Now here is the third piece to the puzzle that you bring in. DK Metcalf. He's 6'4", 240 pounds, runs like a cheetah. I always forget that he's only 27. He's got a lot of great football left in him. He's a huge receiver. He's fast. He's physical. He is the Derrick Henry of the AFC North at wide receiver. He will come in and make an immediate dent in the entire division where teams are afraid of this receiver. They're not afraid of George Pickens. George Pickens is a mental case, head case. It's time to say goodbye to George Pickens. Let George Pickens walk. All the money you were supposed to give George Pickens, let's give it to DK Metcalf, a 27-year-old receiver that's 6'4", 240 pounds, runs like a cheetah, will block, will be physical and nasty, won't be a head case every week like George Pickens. And I'm going to sum it up with this. As far as the receiver position with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm tired of hearing about these small receivers. We have Roman Wilson. We have Calvin Alston. Now we're hearing about the kid from Colorado, another 5'7", 5'8" receiver. We can't walk onto the field with all short guys at receiver. We need a stud. We need that prototype wide receiver. The prototypical number one receiver. And that receiver is DK Metcalf. Let's stop bringing in a bunch of guys that are kind of all similar in height. None of those receivers are over 6 foot tall. None of them, I would bet none of them are even close to 5'10". None of them. Okay, off an inch, whatever. They're barely getting to 5'10". You think that's the answer? The Pittsburgh Steelers need a legit number one wide receiver, and that's DK Metcalf. A number 2, Cooper Kupp. A number 3, Calvin Alston. Then you bring in Matt Stafford to the mix, and now we got a chance to win the Super Bowl. We have a top 10 defense, and those numbers would have been even better if the offense wasn't 3 and out every single time they stepped on the field. We have a top 10 defense. We have a 1,000-yard rusher, Matt Stafford at quarterback, DK Metcalf, your number 1, Cooper Kupp, your number 2, Calvin Alston, your number 3, your Pat Freiermuth tight end. That's dying to bust out of the seams and show that he could be the next Travis Kelce. You could turn this whole season around if Mike Tomlin, Art Rooney, and the Pittsburgh Steelers make the right personnel decisions.